This is a new episode of the moving standpoint. As you can see, we are moving. And the reason I wanted to record right now is because I feel like I'm in a quite good mood today. And I've taken up this new endeavor to wander with an A and probably also with an O. It's not a very particularly pleasant road that I'm walking, but I am walking. But my endeavor to wander has different layers to it. I have a backpack on my back that I usually have when I'm out and about. But yeah, as I was saying, there's different levels to this wandering. I have to get my my stick so I can hold my phone using my hands, so it can be tiring. But yeah, the different layers of my reasons to wander. I guess it has a
lap 3, 12:46.
On the surface level, it's very pragmatic. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this because my body needs it, and it feels good to use it. So that's on the surface level. But the more long-term endeavor is to do a pilgrimage. I'm not sure exactly when it's gonna happen, but I have to be committed and consistent with my wandering. In order to do it, to train my body and my machinery to be able to endure long walks in different terrains with the backpack on my back. So that's kind of just kind of yeah, surface level, mechanical, just common sense in a way. Common sense as just something I have to prepare myself for, so I don't think that I'm gonna just be able to endure long days of walking in an area that is totally unfamiliar for me. So I'm using my current corral to our domain to do that preparation that's needed, that I imagine is needed. So, in other words, this imagining is a segue to those other levels of, or that's deeper than or higher, depending on where you're standing. That I'm kind of, by doing this in a very practical manner, I'm also at the same time kind of on the level beneath what I'm actually doing, is preparing my mind to do this. And by preparing my mind, I'm saying that that's not true there. By preparing my mind, I was saying, yeah, it's back again. It's also a projecting into the future, where we get the word project. So we have a vision of what we want to achieve, and in especially our current zeitgeist of Western society, we make plans in order to come closer to our perceived goal somewhere in the future. And lo and behold, the plans are useful. Like, I'm planning to go on this longer wandering, this pilgrimage. I might not achieve that, but my plan is to practice, so I'll be able to be prepared. So when I say imagining and vision, it also points to the direction of me imagining this. But instead of sitting around and imagining and dreaming and fantasizing about doing it, I have to be prepared to actually do it. So by wondering and preparing and imagining and envisioning what I want to do, to go on this pilgrimage. The only way I'm most likely to succeed with it is to actually enact the wandering, so I can embody the sense of it instead of intellectualizing about all the beautiful, encounters and the sense of mastering something difficult. Yeah, maybe another metaphor is like of that enactment is, if you're gonna sail over the ocean and you've never sailed before and you encounter this huge storm, it's not very likely that you will survive. And so by preparing yourself to whatever endeavor you're endeavoring to do, it just makes common sense that you prepare yourself and make it as real as possible, realistic. That's why that's why I have a backpack on my back. So that's still quite like pragmatic and on the surface level. But the central point that I'm trying to speak about is the value of enactment, whatever you're endeavoring. You have to do. You have to have a procedure and not like just propositions, so you can feel how your body responds to it and how your mind responds to it. And the presupposition here is that our mind and our body is connected. Maybe we don't feel that way all the time, that we have a sense of something like my mind is doing one thing and saying one thing, and my body is opposing or don't want to do it, don't want to act on it. There may be some other voice or part of us that says, yeah, you're probably not gonna do it because you're too lazy. You have kind of tried to do stuff in the past and you haven't done it, you haven't achieved anything. Probably, like, this is often referred to as inner critic that kind of puts you down and and kind of is tormenting you. So it's not it's not given that you will succeed from the standpoint of our current paradigm. The current paradigm has a high cost to it. If you zoom out and try to figure out or see what's actually going on and what we're actually embedded in our modern subject that has grown up in this goal-oriented planning, controlling, where there's usually not much room to other than continuing to dream about something else. And maybe when we have that sense of longing that things could have been different, and it's up to me that I will enforce myself through another day of my routine behavior,
1404.
then it might be useful to take a step back and to try to maybe first of all read works of people who has used many years of studying different cultural phenomenon. Now my quote-unquote companion John Vervaeke shows up in my mind, and what his work is about. So now I'm gonna go into a more improvised overview of what I'm trying to do in a more, I won't call it more intellectual, but it's not intellectual, but it requires. I'm gonna frame intellectual as something you have to concentrate on and read over and over again, as to quote Ryan Dunn's book, as a kind of a spiritual exercise for your mind to to do a mindful wandering by the means of words and passages, so you can orient yourself into what is lost in modernity, what we have lost as humans. So it's a deep convergence in my reading of Ryan Dunn's spiritual exercises, that the book is called, and Vervaeke, John Vervaeke's work. And it's a very compelling way that he argues, and he's also looking through and kind of deciphering what another guy, I don't know much about this Charles Taylor guy, but he has shown up in different contexts. I think also, Vervaeke has also mentioned him several times. But why this is such a helpful and useful book is because he kind of is your companion, and he points and explains different things that by ordinary reading you in our informational minded secular beings we would just have walked right like by it. We would have walked by it. Like I'm not very focused on my environment right now. I'm walking through things that could have been amazing to discover. But the point is that he becomes a companion, and the way he goes about it is, I said it's very compelling because there's something in the way he does it that's holding and trusting you as the reader to by going back to my point about the imaginary and enactment. He's kind of holding you and trusting you that you're able to, with some wrestling, of course, with the text and its different points. Why it's compelling and it speaks to the imaginary, that one of the grounding vivid ways he's speaking about modernity and the complexity and the confusion we're facing. How he does that is to use metaphor as it speaks to, because it speaks to the way we are imagining stuff. And anybody who has gone through, of course everybody has, if there has come, especially if they have come to a certain age, gone through a depression, you know that how vicious your mind can be if it's not properly oriented. That's the dark side of some of the symptomologies of modernity for modern subjects. I think I'm walking in the wrong direction. Such irony. Such irony. I think I'm gonna go back for a bit because I'm not sure where I'm at. Being properly oriented there. So, I'm being disoriented. I'm being the more prototypical modern subject. It's hilarious. I think it's a sign over there. That's very telling. For my modern subject, it's a dead end. Dead end is a sign over there. Oh, I couldn't dreamed of thinking that out or planning for that dead end. Oh my god. Sorry. Yeah, it's nice. In my wandering, shit happens. And that's the part of the beauty of it, to my mind, for me. So, lost my thread. So I was talking about the way how and there's a profound kindness and trust when you read how dense. Yeah, it's actually, I want to include this too because it's interesting. He's a trained philosopher and he's also a Jesuit priest. And I don't know anything about Jesuits, but I think it's about worshipping of Christ. That's the center point of it, as an icon, and not some imaginary, or maybe, or of course it is, but yeah. Now it's getting too complicated for me to speak about, so I'm gonna leave it there. I just wanted to mention who this guy Ryan Dunst is, briefly. And I imagine that this is provoking for people to hear, because of our dark history with Christianity and all this stuff. And of course that makes sense why you should be suspicious about ancient traditions, but let's also speak to the need to revive it, because there has been for secular modern subjects, there has been lost in a profound sense that ancient traditions have always tried to warn about, and using the language of hell and all this. But I'm not sure where I left something behind. It feels. I talked about a metaphor. Yeah, I think that's it. A metaphor as a way we imagine. And yeah, I was going to the point of the thing about how we perceive things and how he uses metaphor from earlier in the book that says he uses a metaphor of the coral. And the coral is a domain, I think I said this earlier, that if we think like it's a kind of inhibiting of our perception, and I'm using the perception as in a broad sense that it's not about our visual perception necessarily, but it has a vertical line to it. Like now, for instance, my perception is that I'm walking, I can feel my feet on the ground, and I'm speaking. If I pause and walk slowly, I can notice more of my breathing and a more fuller sense of how my body is doing stuff right now. So that's my use of the word perception. So if I'm inhibiting by this coral, then I might not see that there's alternative ways of being a being in the world, because I have maybe sometimes come to a certain edge and discovered something, but in my confusion and my perplexity and my ignorance and lack of appropriate framings of what I'm seeing and how to relate to it, it might not occur to me that I can walk another way, or that I have to backtrack and go another way. It might not occur to me because of this coral, or another very, very enticing metaphor that he uses is CWS, and that's a very profound metaphor in my mind. It stands for Cooperative Wholesale Society, and wholesale society is like talking about ripping the sacred of beings or tear it apart, like, and it's, and of course that kind of imagining, and this is my point, trying to reach it, in that kind of mentality that's pervasive in our current society, it's also a sense of pressure to be obligated morally and ethically that we should and we have to fall in line, so to speak, and follow the masses. And that's also what I was speaking or trying to speak to earlier, that he doesn't condemn this mode of being, this wholesale society. It doesn't condemn it, but there's more and more people around the world who's realizing this relevance of and the implication and the consequences of continuing this and being inhibited by this coral and following the line of this cooperative wholesale corporation, maybe wholesale society. It's ripping our hearts out in my eyes. It's really tragic and yeah, it's deeply, there's something deeply troubling about where we're currently at. At the same time, it's not, as I was trying to say, it's not condemning this mode of being, because it has granted us material goods beyond all, like it's we have all that we need, and we want more because we are strong-willed. We are indwelled in a strong-willed that perpetuating and grows our egos and the belief that we have to have more. But this is just maybe is needed, that we have to reach the breaking point at some point, so we can break out of this current coral that we find ourselves in on the individual level, and also all the groups and all the levels, and up to the scale, if we scale that up, our civilization as a species. So there's a transition that can happen, and the transition is to put it bluntly and unnuanced, is very either or in a way. But that doesn't mean that it's complicated, because the coral is complicated to relate with. And but there is, so his presupposition, or what he proposes, because he's not condemning this mode of being that we're currently in, but there is an alternative. If we kind of I'm not sure how to say this. It's like, I'm gonna use a metaphor that's kind of useful. I hope that the water we're swimming in is gonna be telling of how we swim. If we're constantly swimming upstreams, it's gonna be hard. And if we're believing that we have to swim upstreams in this toxic water, it's a very there's a very blunt way to put it, but I'm gonna go with it. If we swim upstreams in a toxic river, we're bound to get exhausted and give up, or breaking out of, or all the millions of ways we can stay in the coral. So this is how far I think I've reached my understanding. I can jump ahead into another framework, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave that for another time, because I'm starting to eat my own words, or I'm going uphill and I'm running out of gas. So I think this is a good point to slowing down and catch my breath. But there is an alternative to all this. But it's and the alternative is hard to navigate without quote unquote falling in love with people over your pay grade that spend a lifetime to look at this and how we got here. And I hope this could be of some help, and for me it's kind of helping me to get more grip on what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve with philosophy and theology, and participating in different spaces, and trying as best as I can to cultivate and orient myself to a deeper sense of sacredness. Thank you for listening, and I hope you're well and that your endeavor is clear enough for you to pursue. Thank you for listening.